The silk sheets tangled around my legs like a lover's desperate grasp. But the room smelled of salt and secrets, not safety. My head throbbed as if I'd been clubbed by the truth itself, and when I bolted upright, the canopy bed in this opulent chamber, all gilt edges and velvet drapes, felt like a gilded cage snapping shut. "Sophia," I whispered into the dim light, my voice cracking like the first fracture in a dam about to burst, because the last face I'd seen before blacking out was hers, the woman whose empire I'd tried to topple, now holding the key to my survival. I stumbled out of the bed, bare feet hitting cool marble that echoed through the vast space like accusations. The mansion sprawled around me, a labyrinth of arched doorways and sun-bleached stone that screamed old Spanish money, the kind that whispered of conquistadors and quiet corruptions. Costa Brava's coastline battered against the cliffs outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, a relentless roar that mirrored the panic clawing up my throat. How the hell had I gotten here? Last I remembered, I was sprinting through the narrow alleys of Barcelona, heart pounding harder than the flamenco beats spilling from hidden bars, dodging shadows that weren't just mine. My byline, Luna Reyes, investigative firebrand for the Atlantic's European desk, had lit a fuse under Sofia Navarro, the rising star of Spain's conservative coalition, a politician whose charm masked a web of real estate scandals that could unravel her party's grip on Catalonia. I'd been chasing the story for months, ever since a tip from a disgruntled aide painted her as the queenpin of coastal developments that displaced entire fishing villages for luxury resorts. "She's untouchable," the source had hissed over encrypted calls. "But if you dig deep enough, you'll find the bones." And I dug, God had I dug, uncovering shell companies, bribed officials, and whispers of voter intimidation that smelled like Franco's ghost rising from the grave. My latest piece, Empire of Salt, How Sofia Navarro Sold Spain's Soul, had dropped online 2 days ago, and by morning my apartment in Gracia was ransacked, my phone buzzing with anonymous threats. "Run or we'll make you." So I ran. Packed a go bag with nothing but my laptop, a fake passport from a shady contact in Madrid, and the locket my abuela had given me before she passed, engraved with Corazon Valiente. Heart brave. Yeah, right. I fled to the coast, hitchhiking with truckers who eyed my disheveled jeans and wild curls like I was a stray cat worth pity. But they found me anyway, 2 goons in a black Audi, faces like stone under fedoras, blocking the road to Cadax. I swerved into the ditch, tires screaming, and then nothing. Blackness. Until now. A door creaked open behind me, and I whirled, grabbing a heavy crystal vase from the nightstand like it was Excalibur. There she stood. Sofia Navarro herself, silhouetted against the hallway's golden lamplight. A vision in a simple black cashmere sweater and tailored slacks that hugged her athletic frame. At 35, she was the kind of beautiful that hit like a gut punch. High cheekbones sculpted from marble, hazel eyes that could command a room or cradle a secret, raven hair pulled into a effortless knot. The woman who'd graced Vogue España covers and dodged my interview requests with polite deflections, now regarding me with an expression I couldn't parse. Concern? Calculation? Something softer like regret wrapped in resolve. "Luna," she said, her voice a low alto laced with that Andalusian lilt, smooth as aged sherry. "Put the vase down before you hurt yourself. You're safe here." Safe. The word tasted like ash. I gripped it tighter, shards of memory flashing. The Audi's headlights, the crunch of gravel, her face in the rearview as I fled. Wait, no. That couldn't be right. You sent them," I accused, my American accent, picked up from years studying at Columbia, clashing with the room's Spanish elegance. I'd come to Spain on a fellowship, chasing stories that felt bigger than Brooklyn brownstones, but now I was trapped in her web. "You're thugs. They ran me off the road." She stepped forward, hands raised in surrender, the sleeves of her sweater slipping to reveal a delicate gold bracelet that caught the light. Up close, she smelled of jasmine and sea air, a scent that twisted something low in my belly despite the fury. "I saved you, Carino," she murmured, the endearment slipping out like a confession. "My people, yes, they were mine. But not to harm. To bring you here, away from the real wolves circling. The party's hardliners, the ones who think your article is a declaration of war. If they'd found you first." She trailed off, her gaze dropping to the floor, vulnerability cracking her poise. I laughed, a brittle sound that echoed off the frescoed ceilings. "Saved me? By kidnapping me into your fortress? This is your villa in Bigur, isn't it? The one built on the backs of evicted families, per my sources. My knees buckled then, the adrenaline crash hitting like a wave, and she was there in an instant, strong arms catching me, guiding me to a chaise lounge piled with embroidered cushions. Her touch was electric, firm yet gentle, and I hated how my body leaned into it, traitorous and warm. "Sit," she commanded softly, kneeling to my level, her face inches from mine. Those hazel eyes searched mine, stripping away layers I'd armored with sarcasm and skepticism. "You think I'm the villain in your exposé? Maybe I am. But right now, you're the one with a target on your back. The police are looking for you. Officially, as a fugitive journalist stirring unrest. Unofficially, because I leaked your location to throw them off. Stay here. Let me protect you until the storm passes." Protect. The word hung between us, heavy as the humid air rolling in from the Mediterranean. I wanted to shove her away, to demand my phone, my freedom, to wire the story's follow-up from some dingy cafe in Lisbon. But exhaustion clawed at me, and beneath it, a flicker of something dangerous, curiosity, or worse, the pull of her gravity. Sofia Navarro, the iron-fisted ideologue who'd rallied crowds with speeches on family values and national pride, now on her knees before me, offering sanctuary in a voice that trembled just a fraction. "Why?" I finally whispered, setting the vase down with a clink. "Why help me? I could ruin you." Her lips curved in a sad, knowing smile, the kind that spoke of battles fought in shadowed boardrooms. "Because sometimes the truth sets us both free. And because—" She hesitated, her fingers brushing mine. A spark, unintended but undeniable. "I've read every word you've written, Luna. You're not just a journalist. You're a force. And forces like us? We don't collide by accident." That night, as she left me with a tray of manchego and membrillo, a locked door clicking softly behind her, I paced the room like a caged panther. The mansion's walls seemed to breathe with history. Tapestries of knights and maidens, bookshelves groaning under leather-bound tomes in Castilian and Catalan. Outside, the sea whispered temptations of escape, but the cliffs were sheer, the gates patrolled. I was her prisoner, yes, but as I sank onto the bed, replaying her touch, I wondered if the bars were only in my mind. Days blurred into a tense détente. Sophia's staff, discreet shadows in starched uniforms, delivered meals with averted eyes. Paella steaming with saffron, gazpacho chilled to perfection. She visited in stolen hours, bringing news from the outside world via encrypted tablets. My article had gone viral, protests erupting in Placa de Catalunya, her party scrambling to distance itself. "They're calling for my resignation," she admitted one evening over glasses of Rioja on the terrace, the sunset painting her skin in hues of fire. "Your words. They cut deeper than I expected." "Good," I shot back, but my voice lacked venom. Seated across from her on wrought iron chairs, the table between us a fragile barrier, I studied her, the fine lines of worry etching her forehead, the way her fingers toyed with the stem of her glass. She was 35, going on timeless, a woman who'd climbed from a modest Seville upbringing to the halls of Madrid's Congress, fueled by ambition and, rumor had it, a string of calculated alliances. But here, in the vulnerability of twilight, she seemed almost human. "Tell me about you," she said suddenly, leaning forward, her eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my pulse stutter. "Not the reporter. The woman who left New York for this mad continent. What drives Luna Reyes to chase dragons?" I sipped my wine, the tartness grounding me. "Dragons? Try ghosts. My mother's a Brooklyn cop, tough as nails, but she taught me that power corrupts unless you shine a light on it. Spain felt like the ultimate canvas, history's scars still bleeding." I paused, the locket heavy against my chest. "And you? What's the real Sofia Navarro behind the podium and the scandals?" She laughed, a rich sound that rolled like thunder over the waves. "The real me? A girl from the olive groves who dreamed of changing the world, only to find it's more comfortable to rule it." Her gaze softened, drifting to the horizon. "I came out to my family at 19. They disowned me faster than you can say honor killing. Not literal, but close enough in Andalusia. Politics became my armor. No room for weakness, no space for this." Her hand gestured vaguely between us, and the air thickened, charged with unspoken what-ifs. "This?" I echoed, my heart a wild drumbeat. The terrace lights flickered on, casting her in a halo, And for a moment, the world narrowed to the space between our chairs. Just inches, yet a chasm. This, she repeated, her voice barely above the surf. The pull. The way you look at me like I'm both monster and muse. I should have denied it, should have retreated to the safety of outrage. Instead, I reached across, my fingers grazing hers, warm, callous from handshakes and hidden heartaches. Maybe you are. I breathed, and in that touch, the first thread of something irrevocable wove between us. Weeks slipped by like sand through clenched fists, the mansion's isolation weaving a cocoon around us. Mornings began with Sophia's yoga sessions on the private beach, her lithe form twisting into warrior poses against the dawn, inviting me to join with a teasing, afraid of a little downward dog, Reyes? I'd roll my eyes but show up, my city-soft muscles protesting as we flowed through sun salutations, the sea's rhythm sinking our breaths. It was disarming, this domesticity. Her brewing café con leche strong enough to wake the dead, me commandeering her library to fact-check my next exposé on a tablet she'd smuggled in. We danced around the elephant, my captivity, her culpability, like pros at a state dinner, but the undercurrent hummed, electric and insistent. One afternoon, as thunderheads gathered over the Gulf, she found me in the study, poring over faded maps of the estate's land deeds. The room was a scholar's dream. Mahogany desks cluttered with brass inkwells, walls lined with first editions from Cervantes to Capote. Her eclectic taste, a bridge to my American roots. Rain lashed the windows, turning the world gray, and I didn't hear her enter until her shadow fell across the page. Still hunting ghosts? She asked, perching on the desk's edge, her knee brushing mine. Today she wore a simple sundress, emerald green that made her eyes smolder, hair loose in waves that begged to be touched. Always, I replied, not looking up. This deed here, your family's acquisition in '78, coincides with the village evictions my source mentioned. Care to comment for the record, Congresswoman? She sighed, a sound heavy with the weight of legacies. Off the record then. My father bought it legally, but the villagers. They were bought out, not forced. At least, that's the story I was told as a child. Her fingers traced the map's inked lines, lingering on a cove marked Playa de los Suspiros. Size Beach. Locals say it's haunted by lovers who drowned in a storm, whispering regrets to the tide. I glanced up, caught by the poetry in her voice. Regrets? You have any? Her smile was wry, tinged with melancholy. A lifetime's worth. Like trusting the wrong people in a game where loyalty is currency. She slid off the desk, pacing to the window where rain blurred the horizon. After you ran, I called off the hounds. Told my security chief to bring you here, not harm you. But he improvised a fender bender to slow you down. I didn't know until it was done. Anger flared, hot and familiar. Improvised? That's your excuse for assault. I stood, closing the distance, the storm outside mirroring the one in my chest. I trusted you for a minute there, and you. I know. She cut in, whirling to face me, her composure fracturing. Tears glistened in her eyes, not crocodile ones but raw, the kind that stripped you bare. I know what I've built, Luna. A fortress of favors and facades. But you. Your article peeled it back, forced me to see the rot. And instead of silencing you, I wanted to listen. She reached for me, hesitating when I flinched. Stay. Not as a prisoner. Help me fix it. Expose the real crooks. The party elders who've been bleeding this coast dry for decades. Be my conscience. The offer hung there, tempting as forbidden fruit. Me, the outsider firebrand, partnering with the insider queen? It reeked of compromise, of my ideals bending to her agenda. Yet as lightning cracked the sky, illuminating the fierce hope in her face, I felt the ground shift. Why me? I demanded, voice softer now. You could hire a PR firm, spin this into gold. Because you're real, she said simply, stepping closer. The rain's drumbeat urging us on. And because every time you challenge me I feel alive. Not the politician, the woman. Her words landed like a hook, reeling me in. Before I could think, my hand was on her arm, feeling the warmth through damp fabric, the pulse leaping at her wrist. The air crackled, not just with thunder, and then, God help me, I kissed her. It was tentative at first, a brush of lips tasting of salt and storm, but she responded with a hunger that matched mine. Her hands framing my face as if I were porcelain. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed together, the world reduced to the hitch of our breaths. "I'm sorry," she whispered, but her eyes said the opposite. "Don't be." That kiss unlocked something primal, a door I'd kept bolted since my last heartbreak in New York, a painter who'd ghosted me after I chose deadlines over lazy Sundays. With Sophia it was different. No games, just gravity. We didn't speak of it that night, retreating to separate wings as propriety demanded. Her as the public figure, me as the reluctant guest. But the next morning, over breakfast of fresh figs and yogurt on the sun porch, our feet tangled under the table, a silent pact forming. As days turned to a fragile rhythm, we delved deeper. Evenings became confessionals, her recounting the sting of her coming out, the family's cold shoulder that propelled her into politics as rebellion masked as duty. Me sharing abuela's tales of Franco's Spain, how she'd smuggled queer literature across borders in her corset. "You remind me of her," Sophia said once, tracing my jaw with a fingertip. "Fierce. Unbreakable." "And you," I countered. "You're the storm she warned me about, the one that changes everything." Our touches grew bolder. A hand on the small of my back during walks through the olive groves, where twisted trunks bore witness to centuries of secrets. Stolen glances over dinner, her foot nudging mine in playful Morse code. It was romance in whispers, laced with the drama of our circumstances, the outside world pressing in via smuggled headlines. Investigations launched, her allies fracturing. Yet in those groves, under stars sharp as diamonds, we'd sit on weathered benches, her head on my shoulder, and talk of futures untethered from power plays. But paradise has serpents. One evening as we returned from a cliffside hike, sweaty, exhilarated, her laughter bubbling like kava, I spotted a sleek sedan idling at the gate, its tinted windows hiding watchful eyes. "Yours?" I asked, tension coiling. She paled, grip tightening on my hand. "No. My brother's. Emilio. He's loyal to the old guard." Emilio Navarro, the shadow sibling, a lobbyist with ties to the very developers I'd exposed. He swept in like a sirocco, all slick suits and shark smiles, kissing Sophia's cheeks with fraternal affection that didn't reach his eyes. "Hermana, you've been radio silent." "And who's this?" His gaze raked me, dismissive. "Your new consultant?" Sophia stiffened beside me, but her voice was steel. "Luna Reyes. Journalist. And yes, consulting on transparency reforms." He chuckled, low and oily. "Transparency? In our family?" Bold. Over brandy in the salon, he cornered her with whispers of party pressure, resign or face leaks of her own. An old affair with a female aide, buried deep but not forgotten. I hovered in the doorway, eavesdropping, my stomach twisting as he cooed. "Think of the legacy, Sophie. Don't let a pretty idealist drag you down." That night, alone in my room, doubt crept in like fog off the sea. Was I her salvation or her sabotage? When she slipped in later, eyes stormy, I pulled her into bed. Not for passion but solace, our bodies spooning under the covers, her tears damp on my neck. "He wants me gone," she murmured. "Says you're a liability." "Then fight," I urged, kissing her temple. "With me." She turned in my arms, her gaze fierce. "I will. For us." But as her breathing evened into sleep, I stared at the ceiling, the locket's chain biting into my skin. Trust was a gamble, and in this game the house always won. The fragile peace shattered on a morning thick with mist, the kind that clings to the coast like unspoken lies. I woke to Sophia's side of the bed empty, unusual since our nights had evolved into tangled limbs and murmured dreams, a sanctuary amid the siege. Slipping into a robe, I padded downstairs, the mansion's halls echoing with an unnatural hush. In the kitchen, Maria the housekeeper averted her eyes as she handed me espresso, muttering, "Señora Navarro está en la oficina. No molestar. Don't disturb." But I did. The office door was ajar, revealing Sophia at her desk, phone pressed to her ear, her free hand clenched into a fist. "Emilio, no, I won't let you bury this. The evictions were wrong, and if it means yes, her too. She's part of it now." Her voice broke on the last word, and when she hung up, spotting me in the threshold, her face crumpled. "He knows. About us." The words landed like a slap. "How?" "A leak. One of the staff, probably paid off." She stood, crossing to me in 3 strides, her hands framing my face with desperate tenderness. "It doesn't change anything. I told him we're done, him and the party. I'm going public. With the reforms, with everything. My heart swelled, a mix of terror and triumph. Everything? Like coming out? In Spain's political viper pit. She nodded, hazel eyes blazing. For you. For the woman who made me believe in redemption. Her kiss was fierce, claiming, pouring all her resolve into the press of her lips. We broke apart breathless, foreheads touching, the mist outside lifting to reveal a world waiting to judge. But Emilio didn't slink away. That afternoon he returned with reinforcements. A phalanx of party lawyers, their briefcases bulging with NDAs and threats veiled as advice. The confrontation unfolded in the grand salon, crystal chandeliers tinkling like nervous laughter overhead. I watched from the shadows, Sophia's hand secretly squeezing mine behind a velvet curtain. You've lost your mind, Sophie, Emilio sneered, pacing like a prosecutor. Teaming with this Yankee agitator? She's poison, stirring up the peasants, tanking your polls. He slapped a dossier on the table, printouts of my articles, surveillance photos of us on the beach, walking hand in clasped hand. And this? This will destroy you. The base won't stomach a marimacho in the family. The slur hung ugly and archaic, but Sophia didn't flinch. Call me what you want, brother. But I'm done being your puppet. The developments stop, reparations to the villages, investigations into the bribes. And Luna? She's my partner in every sense. The room erupted. Gasps from the suits, Emilio's face purpling. Partner? You'll be penniless. Exiled. He lunged forward, but Sophia stepped between us, her posture a shield. Try it, she hissed. Expose me and I'll take you down with me. Every dirty deal, every backroom favor. He stormed out, the door slamming like a guillotine, leaving silence in his wake. The lawyers scattered, and then it was just us. Sophia turning to me with eyes wide, vulnerable. Was that too much? I pulled her close, burying my face in her hair. Inhaling jasmine and resolve. It was everything. We sank onto the settee, her head on my lap, and I stroked her waves, whispering stories of queer icons who'd toppled empires. Audre Lorde, James Baldwin, the unsung Spanish activists who'd paved her path. For the first time, the mansion felt like home, not a cage but a launchpad. Emboldened, we plotted. Late nights in the library became strategy sessions. Me drafting press releases with unfiltered fire, her navigating the legal minefield with seasoned grace. We reached out to allies, progressive MPs, expat journalists, even a rogue developer willing to testify. The story grew. Not just scandal but salvation. A blueprint for ethical redevelopment that honored the land's soul. Sophia's speeches shifted, laced with humanity. Spain's strength isn't in stone walls, but in the hearts that build them together. Our love deepened in the cracks. One midnight, after a grueling call with Madrid, she led me to the rooftop terrace, a blanket of stars overhead. We made a picnic of stolen moments. Chorizo and chocolate, her reading Neruda aloud. I want to do with you what spring does with the cherry trees, her voice husky, eyes locked on mine. When she kissed me there, slow and reverent, it was a vow. Bodies aligning under the cosmos, hands exploring with the reverence of pilgrims. No rush, just connection. Fingers interlacing, breaths mingling. The universe contracting to the beat of our shared pulse. I love you, she whispered against my skin, the words a revelation. Tears pricked my eyes. I love you too, Sophia. Brave heart. But dawn brings reckoning. The backlash hit like a tidal wave. Tabloids screaming Navarro's lesbian betrayal. With paparazzi shots of us blurred but unmistakable. Emilio's counterpunch. Anonymous leaks to the police, framing me as a foreign operative inciting sedition. My fellowship revoked, extradition whispers from the U.S. Embassy. Sophia shielded me, her influence a bulwark, but the strain showed, sleepless nights, her once steady hands trembling as she signed affidavits. The high point came mid-month. A clandestine press conference in a Girona warehouse. Activists chanting under fluorescent lights. Sophia stepped to the mic, me at her side, our hands brushing in solidarity. Today I resign, she announced, voice steady as steel. Not in defeat but to rebuild. With Luna Reyes we'll return what's owed, to the displaced, to the truth, to love that defies shadows. The room exploded, cheers, flashes, a sea of raised fists. In that chaos she pulled me into a kiss, unapologetic. The crowds roar our anthem. We drove back under cover of dusk, euphoric, her hand on my thigh as the road wound through cork oaks. It's working, I said, grinning. The tide's turning. But as the mansion's lights winked into view, my phone finally returned, buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She's playing you. Check the safe. Doubt slithered in, cold and insidious. That night, as Sophia slept, I crept to her office, the combination her birth year, too trusting or too bold. The safe yielded folders. Land deals, yes, but also emails. Hers to Emilio dated weeks ago. Keep her close. Use the story to discredit the old guard. When it's done, we'll handle her deportation quietly. My world tilted. Betrayal sharp as a stiletto. She'd used me, a pawn in her chess game, our love a convenient cover. Tears blurred the pages as I sank to the floor, the sea's lullaby mocking my shattered trust. Morning light filtered through the shutters like a false promise, gilding the betrayal I'd clutched all night. The emails burned in my mind, Sophia's elegant script plotting my isolation, painting me as the perfect scapegoat to purge her brother's influence while salvaging her image. Deportation quietly. The words echoed, a dirge to the nights we'd shared. The vows whispered under stars. How could I have been so blind? Journalism had honed my nose for lies, yet love had dulled it to a nub. I confronted her at breakfast, the terrace table a battlefield of croissants and shattered illusions. She looked up from her tablet, smile faltering at my ashen face. Luna? What's wrong? I slid the printouts across, hastily run off on her printer, edges crisp as my resolve. This. Explain. Her eyes scanned, widening in horror. No, Dios, no. These are drafts. Emilio forged them or twisted old ones. I never. She reached for me, but I recoiled, the chair scraping like a scream. Drafts? For what? Your memoir of manipulation. My voice cracked, American twang sharpening the sarcasm. I trusted you, loved you, and all along, I was the prop in your redemption arc. Tears welled in her hazel depths, but I armored against them. Luna, please. Let me prove it. Call my lawyer. Prove? Like you proved your innocence in the scandals. I stood, the sea wind whipping my hair like furies. I'm done being your conscience, Sophia. Or your cover. Grabbing my go bag, packed in the dead of night, I bolted for the door, her pleas chasing me. Wait. It's not what you think. The gates loomed, wrought iron mocking my flight, but a guard loyal to her always blocked the drive. Senora says no one leaves. Panic surged. I was caged again, the irony bitter. Hours later, barricaded in my room, I paced, phone dead from a yanked charger, laptop seized under security protocols. Desperation clawed. Text to contacts in Barcelona undelivered. A window too high for the drop. By dusk, exhaustion won, and I curled on the bed, sobs racking me for the woman I'd been, the love I'd lost. She came at twilight, slipping in like a ghost, bearing a keyring and a bottle of Armagnac. I fired the guard. Packed your things in the hall. Her voice was raw, eyes red-rimmed. Go if you must. But hear me first. Against my will, I sat as she poured, the liquor burning a path to truth. Those emails? Emilio's doing. He accessed my account during a family visit. The timestamp? Before I even knew your name fully. I found out last week, confronted him. That's why he escalated, the leaks, the slurs. He wants me broken to inherit the machine. I searched her face, the journalist's instinct warring with the lover's ache. And the deportation line? A bluff, he added. To scare you into running, forcing my hand. She knelt vulnerable again, that poise cracked wide. I love you, Luna. Not as a tool. As my equal. My future. The room spun, doubt and desire dueling. How do I believe you? After everything. She pulled a USB from her pocket, sliding it over. Everything. Unredacted files, proof of Emilio's embezzlement, the party's slush funds. I was holding them as leverage, but now, they're yours. Publish. Ruin us all if you want. Just don't leave me in the ruins alone. I plugged it in, scanning ledgers, recordings, damning, explosive. Her downfall willingly offered. Tears blurred the screen, and when I looked up, she was crying too, silent streams down those sculpted cheeks. Why? I whispered. Because love isn't possession. It's release. Her hand hovered, waiting for permission. When I nodded, she took mine, thumb-stroking knuckles. Stay. Fight with me, not against. Or go. And know I'll cheer your byline from afar. The choice hung a precipice. Hours passed in murmurs, her recounting the hack's details, me grilling like a deposition. By midnight, conviction settled. Her story held, the fractures in Emilio's plot visible now. We made love then, not as conquest but reclamation. Slow, sacred bodies mapping apologies in whispers and sighs. Dawn found us entwined, the storm passed. But Emilio struck back, vicious and swift. 2 days later, as we prepared to leak the files to El Pace, the mansion's alarm shrieked. Intruders, his mercenaries breaching the perimeter. Chaos erupted. Guards clashing in the courtyard. Gunfire popping like fireworks over the waves. Sophia shoved me into the wine cellar, barricading the door. Stay here. I'll handle it. No. I pounded, heart in my throat. Sophia. Through the scuffle her voice carried. Emilio, stop this madness. It's over. His laugh manic. Over? You betray family for her? I'll end it for all of us. A shot rang out, not fatal I prayed, and then silence broken by sirens wailing up the drive. Police swarmed, Emilio cuffed and snarling, Sophia emerging bloodied but unbroken. A graze on her arm staining her blouse crimson. She collapsed into my arms, the terrace a crime scene of toppled pots and shattered lanterns. It's done, she gasped as medics fussed. He confessed. The party's crumbling. In the ER sterile glow, stitches closing her wound, we held vigil. Her hand in mine, the locket pressed to her palm. You saved me, she murmured, doped on painkillers. We saved each other, I corrected, kissing her knuckles. The fallout was biblical. Headlines screaming Navarro dynasty implodes. Emilio arrested for assault and fraud. The coalition fracturing into reformist splinters. Sophia's resignation became a rallying cry. Her testimony before Congress a masterclass in accountability. Queer, unapologetic. Hand in mine via video link from my New York return. I'd left briefly to testify remotely, but the pull was magnetic. Months later, the dust settled into something resembling grace. Spain's coast breathed easier. Reparations funded community co-ops. Resorts retrofitted for locals. My follow-up series in the Atlantic earning a Pulitzer nod. Sophia, free of the machine, pivoted to advocacy. A foundation for displaced families, board seats on environmental councils. Her voice now a beacon for queer rights in a nation still mending old wounds. We split time, her Seville apartment alive with azulejo tiles and abuela's recipes I'd mastered. My Brooklyn walk up a crash pad for stateside jaunts, where she'd charm my mom over pierogies and tales of bullfights dodged. But the real victory was quieter. Us unscripted. Weekends in Bigger, the mansion sold but the cliffs ours for hikes, where we'd pause at Playa de los Suspiros, toes in the surf, her head on my shoulder as waves sighed regrets we'd outrun. Think the ghosts approve? She teased, hazel eyes dancing. They're jealous. I'd quip, pulling her close, our laughter mingling with the tide. Challenges lingered. Visas tangled by my fugitive past, her ex-allies whispers like thorns. One night in New York, over dim sum in Chinatown, a tabloid alert buzzed. Navarro's Yankee flame. Power play or true love? We scrolled, her arm around me, dissolving into giggles at the grainy pics of us arguing over gelato in Rome. Let them speculate, she said, clinking her Tsingtao to mine. We know the truth. And we did. Love in its rawest form wasn't the drama of betrayals or the high of rescues. It was the daily devotions. Her learning my coffee order, black, no mercy. Me practicing Catalan endearments that made her blush. It was human, flawed, the kind abuela would have toasted with Salud al corazón valiente. One crisp autumn evening, back on the Costa Brava, rented villa now no ghosts, we climbed to that terrace overlook, the same where lightning had sealed our first kiss. Dusk painted the sea gold and Sophia knelt, not in supplication but offering. A ring simple platinum etched with waves and stars. Marry me, Luna. Not for headlines but homecomings. For every storm we weather. Tears blurred her face, beautiful in vulnerability. Yes, I breathed, pulling her up into an embrace that defied gravity. We stood there locked, the world a canvas we'd repaint together. Bold strokes of truth, tender washes of touch. As stars pricked the velvet sky, her whisper against my ear. From running to this. Who knew? I smiled heartful. We did. Deep down. And in that moment, with the sea's eternal song below, we weren't journalist and politician, betrayer and betrayed. We were Luna and Sophia, two women, woven from fire and salt, building a legacy not of empires, but of echoes, brave hearts beating as one.